The Office is the TV show that I've rewatched the most times. I've basically had it on loop for the last 10 years. So today I'm going to give you my picks for the 10 best episodes of The Office. So let's talk about it. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Chandler, and I started this channel essentially because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies and TV way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place to consider clicking that subscribe button. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down in the comment section. Tell me, what are your favorite episodes of The Office? Our lists are going to be wildly different because there's more than 10 great episodes to this show. As I was trying to make my top 10, I had over 30 episodes that I wanted to include in this list. So if I don't include your favorite episode, don't go all angry Andy Bernard on me. Just tell me in the comment section, why do you love your favorite episode? Let's have a fun discussion about this show that we all love. With that said, let's get started. Kicking things off is Money from Season 4. Now, the beginning of Season 4 had several great episodes, and this one stuck out to me because each of the different plot lines is memorable in a different way. Right off the bat, you got Michael with his financial problems getting a second job at a calling center, which just makes for some fun little scenarios where you get to see him trying to be a salesman in a different environment and getting chewed out for it. You also get to see him be the co-worker that's actually kind of cool to the people that he works with. And then as it progresses into the second half of the episode, you get the classic moment where he declares bankruptcy.
I declare bankruptcy!
And on the other side of the episode, you have Jim discovering that Dwight runs a B&B and taking Pam there, which just leads to all sorts of fun Dwight moments. Mose gets in on the action, and then you also get to see kind of the heartbroken Dwight, the more human version of the character. So all in all, this is an episode that has a lot of great, funny, memorable moments, and it also has a little bit of heart in the mix too. Coming in at number 9 is Diversity Day. Overall, season 1 is a very mixed bag season of the show as they were still figuring out the tone, but I think this one episode is a nice standout that's an interesting mix of some of the cynicism of the British Office with the direction that they were going with the American version, and you get some very classic moments inside of the show as you see the selfish Michael that wants to be seen as funny, that can't accept that he's made a mistake, that he's gone too far with his sense of humor. You get several trademarks of the show in him throwing meetings, him taking over meetings, all these things that you know the show for are first seen in this episode.
Abraham Lincoln once said that if you're a racist, I will attack you with the North.
For me, this episode is so memorable that it's actually replaced my memory of the actual Chris Rock bit with Michael and Kevin reenacting the Chris Rock bit. Also in the mix, you've got some nice little rivalry elements going on between Dwight and Jim happening. So this is an episode that kind of set the precedent for what this show would be and what I would love about it. And number 8 is Business School from Season 3. This is an episode where I think all 3 main plot lines are very strong. At the center of it, you have Michael going to speak for Ryan's business school, and you just get a bunch of classic, overly confident Michael presenting to a room full of people that know more than him, and it just leads to a bunch of hilarious little moments. Back at the office, you have a bat loose in the office and Dwight trying to take it out, and this also plays into a fun little element behind the scenes as the episode was directed by Joss Whedon, who at the time the episode was made was famous for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and so you have Jim pranking Dwight by pretending like he's been bit by a vat and has been turned into a vampire. Finally, you have a plot line about Pam having a little art show, and Roy doesn't understand it. Oscar and his partner are not particularly kind to her, and so she's feeling really discouraged, and then the discouraged Michael shows up, and they have this really great little moment as he just honestly loves her drawing, her painting of the office, and wants to buy it and take it back. And for me, these are some of the moments in the show that I love the most, where you see the characters really care about one another on a deeper level, and then they play it once again for a callback joke to the candy bars that are in his pocket, and it plays so nicely. Number 7 is The Injury from Season 2. This is just a solid, classic standalone episode of The Office. It kicks off with this great opener where Michael calls into the office needing a ride to work because he has clamped his foot in a foreman grill. Of course, Jim puts this phone call on speaker so everyone can hear, and it just leads to a bunch of just fun scenarios that are all really memorable. Whether you're talking about the fact that Dwight injures himself, gets an actual concussion, and suddenly his personality changes just a little bit, that he becomes friends with Pam, whether you're talking about Michael's selfishness throughout the entire episode and calling in the property manager to do a meeting to share with them, as we learn that he only brushes his teeth for 10 seconds, whether you're talking about the car ride with Meredith, who of course is a terrible driver, or Michael not knowing how to fill out the paperwork properly. This is just an episode jam-packed with fun little moments that are highly rewatchable. Coming in at number 6 is the finale. In general, I've been pretty critical of seasons 8 and 9 of the show, but I think they really landed the ship with the final episode. Of course, you finally get the marriage between Angela and Dwight, which is just a nice little payoff for a plotline that's been going on for 7 seasons of the show. They bring Michael back for just the perfect amount of screen time where he gets a couple of solid Michael jokes into the mix. You get an update on his family and you just see how happy he is having kids, having multiple phones, to have all the pictures of his kids. And then as it starts to reveal where everyone ends up at the end of the show, we learn that Jim and Pam have moved to Austin, which is fun for me because I live in the Austin area. And we get Andy, who has been rather selfish in this final season, gets this great line reflecting on the show.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
In general, this is a finale that just hits all the right notes to leave the audience satisfied. Before I give you my top 5, here's some honorable mentions, and this was once again very tough because I've got about 30 honorable mentions I want to include. First off, we've got the Dundies from season 2. This is really when The Office as we know it started. Next up, we've got Beach Games from season 3, an episode that's really funny. It's got a lot of heart and actually moves the plot line ahead quite a bit. Then we've got Fun Run from season 4. Actually, really the first 4 episodes of season 4 are all pretty fantastic. Then we got Company Picnic from season 5, a great season closer that you get some big reveals about Pam and Jim and their family, some fun moments with Dwight trying to delay the game, and then of course some Holly and Michael in there. Next one, my wife told me I had to include Threat Level Midnight from season 7, Michael's movie. We finally get to see it, and some people don't like it, but I have some fun with it. And finally, Goodbye Michael from season 7, Michael Scott's send-off, where you get to see him really care about his coworkers and do nice things for them. In 5th place is Stress Relief from season 5. When this episode first debuted, it was right after the Super Bowl, and so they designed the episode to appeal to as broad of an audience as possible. Therefore, this episode has 4 of just the biggest laugh out loud moments of the entire series. Right off the bat, you have Dwight's fire drill in the office, which is just the craziest, most chaotic sequence in the entire series. Just a couple scenes later, you have this incredible sequence where Dwight cuts off the face of a mannequin.
Oh my God.
Bloody.
Oh my God.
And then in the second half of the episode, you have the roast of Michael Scott, followed soon by Michael Scott roasting The Office. All of it makes for just some of the funniest moments in the entire series. On a comedic level, this episode is top 3 level, but I don't think the plot overall is quite as strong, and I don't think the heartfelt moments hit as hard as some of the other episodes. So for that reason, it's in the top 5, but not in the top 3 for me. And number 4 is Niagara from season 6. This is another event episode where they knew people were going to be watching, so they went for it on a comedic level. Whether you're talking about Michael and Dwight picking up chicks, Kevin putting his feet inside of an ice machine, whether you're talking about Andy's dance moves leading to Andy's injury, or of course the big dance sequence during the ceremony. The episode has so many of these hilarious standout sequences. You get some awkward humor in the mix as they have the speech section of the episode, and of course as you go into the ceremony you have the plot twist of realizing that Jim knew hijinks would ensue, and therefore he had a plan to have the nice romantic wedding for just the 2 of them. Overall, it hits on so many nice little notes. Actually, when this episode first aired, aired, I thought to myself, this could have made for actually a pretty good little series finale if they had chosen to go in that direction. Before giving my top 3, remember to give me your picks down below in the comments section. We're going to disagree. That's a good thing. Let's have a nice lively discussion where we don't need to insult each other. Let's just share why we love so many different episodes of this show. Also, after this video, check out this playlist up above. It's got some of my other Office rankings, all the seasons ranked, the characters ranked. I also got a Parks and Rec video in there ranking the seasons of that. If you enjoyed this video, there's definitely stuff in there that you'll enjoy. Bringing us into the top 3 is Gay Witch Hunt from season 3. This is a classic standalone episode showcasing classic Michael Scott overstepping a social boundary, getting himself into trouble, and then constantly digging a deeper and deeper hole for himself as he tries to make things right in all of the wrong ways. And it is hilarious from beginning to end, of course, climaxing with Michael and Oscar kissing each other right on the lips as Michael forces himself onto Oscar. And the thing about this episode is the whole thing could have fallen apart because this is the episode where they split the show in half and sent Jim off to a different office, had a whole new cast of characters over there where we first get to see Andy Bernard, and everything could have fallen apart if that didn't work, but it did, and the show still had its magic. It still had all the relationships working in there as they're able to call Jim and try and get a gaydar from him. All in all, this is one of the classic standalone episodes and a great season opener. Our runner-up is The Dinner Party from season 4. For me, this is the episode that best captured the awkward, uncomfortable humor of this show without going over the edge. Scott's Tots, I think, is a lot more uncomfortable and awkward, but I also find it unwatchable because it is so uncomfortable and awkward. And the brilliance of the episode is that we've all been stuck in situations like this. We've all been invited to dinner parties that we didn't want to go to, but we got tricked into showing up to. We've all been invited to dinner parties where they end up pitching us some business proposal that they have. We've all shown up to dinner parties where the people hosting it start fighting with each other in front of everyone. We've all been to dinner parties where we show up and they're like, yeah, the food will be ready in like 3 hours. It's so real that it gets really, really uncomfortable, and it's still charming and funny at the same time. And just the nice final touch on this episode, the cherry on the top, is Hunter's music playing all throughout the second half of the episode as it gets stuck in your head the way it gets stuck in the characters' heads. But coming in at number 1 is Casino Night from season 2. For me, this is the episode that touches on the most things that I love about the show and just knocks all of them out of the park. Right off the bat, Michael and Toby get into it as Toby raises some legitimate concerns and Michael responds in a typical Michael way.
Why are you the way that you are? Every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
From there, all the characters get a little moment to shine in the mix as Kevin talks about how great he is at poker and then he loses. You get Creed cheating throughout the episode. You get Michael inviting 2 different girls. There's just all these elements that are sprinkled throughout it that are just an absolute delight. But of course, the big payoff for this episode is Jim confesses his feelings to Pam and finally kisses her right on the lips, which sets up so much of the rest of the series. It's a great moment. It's a classic Office moment in an episode that is filled with classic Office moments. This is probably the episode we rewatch the most. It's got the humor, it's got the awkward, and it has the emotion, and it's got a fun plot in the mix too. So this for me is the number 1 episode of The Office. Remember to check out that playlist right over there with my ranking of the seasons of The Office as well as the characters from The Office. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much in 2019.